I was reading an article that stated this statistic that 70% of what we argue about between us in a relationship are what are considered unresolvable, perpetual problems. That's an unbelievable statistic, and I think that we really need to have a completely different mindset if we accept that as truth. I'm Stacy, and I want to give you an example because I racked my brain and I'm like, okay, what do we fight about? What do we argue about? And what has been around in my relationship for many years. And here's an example. I came into our relationship as somebody who was very prompt. I liked to be places on time, probably 5 minutes early just in case. My husband, he's a little bit looser with those start times. And in the beginning, as we put our lives together, we fought about this like a lot. It drove me crazy. It was a big issue. It was actually something that it came up over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm thinking now, this is still a thing, but what has changed is how we deal with it. The problem hasn't gone away, hasn't been resolved, still here, but we handle it differently than we did back then. And I think that has to do with 3 different mindsets that I want to talk about today. The first one is the difference between something being a failure or something being a flare-up. So if the problem is here to stay, right, then when it comes up again, if we think about it as a failure, that didn't work. We never resolved that. We had that big fight about that thing, and here it is again, and now we're a failure. Like we failed here. That doesn't feel good, especially if we start thinking about the relationship as a failure because this wasn't resolved. When we think about it as a flare-up, it's going to show up over and over and over. It's just wired in me that I want to be on time. It's just wired in my husband that he doesn't think that's that important. He doesn't have that as a strong value. Most of the time we can deal with it, but every once in a while there's going to be a conflict about it. And when it comes up, it's just, oh, okay, this is one of our challenges. So if you start thinking about that, there's not so much judgment in it. It's not a failure that it came up again. It's just one of the things that's going to be ongoing for you. It lightens it up a little bit. The next mindset I want to talk about is the difference between one and done resolution and an ongoing list of strategies. If you think okay, this problem is here, and we're going to solve this, and we're just going to figure it out right now, and it's never, ever, ever going to happen again, this is it. Then when it shows up again, you have that failure. You feel like failure. You're like, God, how have we not figured this out? We've been working on it for so long. When you think about it as just a collection of ongoing strategies, you're like, oh, here it is again. Well, that didn't work what we tried last time, or these are the circumstances that are making this challenging this time. You start to think of how are we going to work with this as it continues to show up? Maybe you fight about money. What do they say? Kids, money, and sex. Those are the top 3 things that relationship issues. If you know some of that stuff is just part of your ongoing, perpetual, unresolvable problem, then what you're doing is you're collecting a list of coping strategies for when it does show up, when you have flare-ups. You're not just solving it this one time, and then if it comes up again, you failed. Different mentality, right? The last mindset I want to talk about is whether something is a relationship red flag or it's a relationship challenge. This is kind of an interesting thing I've been talking about with friends lately. We've been married for 25 years. We're just here to stay. We're just both in it to stay. That's just kind of an underlying agreement, assumption. So when you're in it to stay with someone, then you start thinking about, okay, what are our specific challenges that we work with? And your 70% of your problems are these ongoing challenges that you're going to have. As opposed to, this is a relationship red flag. Oh, we can't solve this issue, so this relationship is probably doomed. Now, some things are deal breakers. I know that. Some things are deal breakers. But when you start to look at those relationship challenges and you're going like, oh, that's just bad. That's a red flag. This is never going to work. You're leaving space for the ending, as opposed to being of a mentality that we're all in. We're here to stay, but we are going to have these things that we work through. So you want to kind of move into that. This is our relationship challenge. These are the ones that were given to us. This little unique pairing we have comes with its own. So we have to shift our mentality if we truly are going to be discussing things for the rest of our relationship. And 70% of them are going to be ongoing and unresolvable. How do we approach them in a different way? So very important to think about shifting your mindset. And if you would like to pick up a little collection of ways to turn arguments into conversations, you can go to that link and just get that free download. And just a quick summary, for mindset number 1, these are not failures when the problems come back up, they're flare-ups. It's just a flare-up. It's an opportunity, right? Mindset number 2, this is not going to be a one and done resolution. This is going to be something that comes up again, especially if it's come up again and again. And we want to start thinking about each flare-up as an opportunity to figure out a new coping strategy, a new thing that we can do for when it rears its head again, because it will. And the last mindset is that instead of this being a relationship red flag, this can just be our unique set of relationship challenges that we're going to work through together because we're in it together. That's what I offer you today. Don't be scared by that statistic. That means we're all in the same boat and we're all dealing with it in our relationships. And we can do it. We can do it if we just change our thinking a little bit. Okay, hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.